In the year 2024, another apocalyptic horror strikes. Earth is suddenly attacked by unknown creatures. Their bodies are covered in armor, impervious to weapons, and they roam freely in deep, urban environments, completely unstoppable. Within just a month, society collapses, and 95% of the population is wiped out. On this day, on a highland hill, a young boy looks around, hoping to find other survivors. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound behind him. He knows the monsters have spotted him. Without hesitation, he sprints toward higher ground. The creature, as fast as lightning, lunges at him. 34. The boy, terrified, drops to the ground and stays motionless. But strangely, the monster doesn't continue its pursuit. Instead, it mysteriously retreats. It turns out that the boy has just crossed the 8,000-foot elevation boundary. Ever since the creatures appeared, they have never crossed this altitude. As a result, these highlands have become the last refuge for humanity. People survive by hunting and foraging. Life is harsh, but at least they have some peace. However, the air is thin at this altitude, and the boy, weak and sickly, relies on a respirator to survive. Now, the respirator's filters will only last for 1 more week. The boy's father, Will, is desperate. If they continue waiting, his son will surely die. He decides to take the risk of descending into the town below to search for new filters in the hospital, but going alone is nearly impossible. He turns to his neighbor, Anna, for help, because she is the only person who has ever gone down and made it back alive. Will trades all his food for weapons and finds a relatively safe path down the mountain. That night, he approaches Anna and tries to persuade her to join him. However, she immediately dismisses his idea. 30. Anna warns that going down means certain death. She only survived last time because of sheer luck. Will then reveals something shocking. Don't you want to check on your lab? It turns out he already knows that Anna is a biologist who has been researching ways to fight the monsters for years. Seeing the determination in her eyes, Anna finally agrees to go with him. Before they leave, Will secretly repairs a peculiar-looking watch. This device detects the creature's rough locations using magnetic field changes. The next morning, as they prepare to leave, their friend Katie unexpectedly joins them. Katie is tired of the dull, suffocating life on the mountaintop. She wants to see the monsters up close. She firmly believes that one day, humanity will face them head-on. Will can't refuse. After saying goodbye to his son, he sets off with the 2 women toward the town below. Using binoculars, they spot a deep crater at the foot of the mountain, the creature's temporary resting ground. Carefully, they reach the edge of the danger zone. Anna checks the detector. No creatures nearby. Taking deep breaths, the 3 cross the boundary. From this moment on, they can be attacked at any time. As they move cautiously down the mountain, everything seems calm. 29. Surprisingly, they encounter no danger. In an abandoned military truck, they even find some grenade launchers, boosting their confidence. Moving through a dense forest, they spot a herd of wild horses. Strangely, the monsters only hunt humans, never attacking other animals. Just then, Anna checks her watch. A monster is approaching. Moments later, a red glow appears in the distance. Will yells for everyone to get into a cable car, but the power is out. Katie catches sight of the creature, and, without hesitation, fires a grenade at it. 2:58. As the smoke clears, the creature is completely unharmed. Instead, it goes into a frenzy, charging toward them. Luckily, Will quickly replaces the power battery, restoring electricity. He and Anna jump onto the cable car. Katie, staying behind to cover them, climbs a tower and leaps onto the moving car just in time. As long as they hold on for a few more seconds, they'll be past the boundary. But at the last moment, the creature's tail smashes into the cables. The cable car loses support and crashes down. 3:31. Dazed and injured, the 3 have no time to recover. The monster lunges at them, but at that exact moment, they cross the boundary. The creature roars in frustration and turns away. Relieved, they take shelter in a farmhouse halfway up the mountain. The terrifying encounter leaves them shaken. Anna, an expert on the creatures, still has no idea where they came from. The disaster started when deep pits appeared worldwide, and the creatures simply crawled out. They function like machines, never eating, never sleeping, hunting only humans. Will is reminded of his wife, who was also obsessed with studying the creatures. She died before she could uncover their origins. 1. The next morning, they continue their journey. This time, Will chooses a different route, an abandoned mine. A tunnel on the 8th level leads directly to the other side, saving them time. More important. The next morning they continue their journey. This time, Will chooses a different route, an abandoned mine. A tunnel on the 8th level leads directly to the other side, saving them time. More importantly, both ends of the tunnel are above the 8,000-foot mark. Anna questions whether the tunnel might dip below the safety line, but Will has no choice. Katie supports him unconditionally, so the group presses on. The tunnel is pitch black. Thankfully, there are no monsters inside, and they move smoothly. But nearing the exit, they find their path blocked by a welded iron gate. They are forced to take a lower level, significantly increasing the risk of encountering creatures. Anna warns that the creatures detect prey by sensing carbon dioxide. Moving slowly will reduce emissions and help them avoid detection. Yet, only a few steps in, Katie senses movement behind them. The detector isn't working due to interference. Then, they hear the monsters breathing. Without thinking, they run. The creature gives chase, its silhouette visible in the darkness. Will fires at it, but the bullets are useless. Ahead, they see a narrow crevice and squeeze inside. The monster is too large to fit, but its tail extends several meters. 5:27. Remembering Anna's advice, they hold their breath, but Will can't take it anymore. He throws a flare to distract the creature. It works. As it turns away, they gasp for air. In the dim light, they spot an exit nearby. Just as Will makes a break for it, the monster's tail almost strikes him. Katie is the first to escape, but immediately gets impaled by another lurking creature. Will watches helplessly as she is dragged away. 5. Fighting their grief, Will and Anna climb to a higher level, finally escaping the mine. Here, they are still, within the safe zone, but closer to the town where more supplies can be gathered. Will mourns Katie's death. Anna tells him to channel his grief into vengeance. She has a theory. The creature's armor generates high-voltage currents, which instantly neutralize attacks. But if they coat bullets with a heat-resistant nanomaterial, they might penetrate the armor. However, they need to reach the lab to test this. 6:24. The next day, they drive toward the town hospital. The engine noise startles wild animals, but luckily, no monsters appear. Will rushes through the chaotic corridors, finally reaching the pharmacy. But there are no respirator filters. Before they can check the surgical wing, the detector shows a monster approaching. 6:53. Will finally finds the filters and stuffs his backpack full. As they prepare to flee, spiked limbs burst from the walls. Armed but outnumbered, they sprint for the stairs. Reaching the upper floor, Will gets caught by a tentacle. Anna hacks at it with a fire axe, forcing the monster to retreat. However, they're trapped with no way up. Spotting oxygen tanks in storage, Will hatches a desperate plan. He waits for the monster to approach, then fires at the tank. Will knew that the monsters could wake up at any moment. He planned to return to the mountain town immediately, but Anna suggested they visit the laboratory first. The filters would only last for about a year and a half, meaning they would eventually have to face the monsters again. Will was convinced by her reasoning and quickly drove to the nearby lab. Anna eagerly retrieved the nano-oxidase, wanting to verify her hypothesis as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Will accidentally saw a photo on the table and realized that Anna's entire family had been killed by the monsters when the disaster broke out. She had been working late at the lab and missed her son's soccer game. Though she had survived, by sheer luck she had spent all these years regretting not being with her family in their final moments. Will repeated the words of comfort that Anna had previously given him. "You should turn your grief into strength." Anna steadied her emotions and loaded bullets coated with oxidase into a magazine. There was a monster in the lab for testing, but unfortunately, the bullet still failed to penetrate its armor. Anna was momentarily disheartened and told Will to return to the shelter alone while she stayed behind to continue her research. If they couldn't find a way to kill the monsters, everyone would eventually die at their hands. Will, worried about his son's safety, had no choice but to drive toward the mountain camp alone. On the way, although he didn't encounter any monsters, his nerves were too tense and he got distracted, causing his car to crash into a rock and overturn. Meanwhile, Anna also faced danger. Her detector showed that a monster was approaching. In her panic, she inadvertently spotted a battery on the wall and remembered that its conductive liquid was not only resistant to high temperatures, but also had excellent conductivity and ferromagnetic properties. Perhaps this was the ideal material to penetrate the monster's armor. Anna quickly applied the conductive liquid to the bullets, but she had no time to test them because the monster had already charged at her. No one knew how much time had passed when Will regained consciousness. Realizing his dire situation, he scrambled out of the overturned car. Sure enough, it wasn't long before he heard the monster's roars nearby. Grabbing his weapon and backpack, he sprinted toward the mountaintop. But how could his two legs outrun the monster's four? fire, especially on such rugged terrain. To make matters worse, one of the creatures was waiting at the perimeter of the camp. Will's heart sank. He was trapped. But thinking of his son's safety, he raised his gun and fired. Just as his magazine was about to be emptied, one bullet finally pierced a monster's body, causing it to explode instantly. It turned out that Anna had successfully developed a bullet that could kill the creatures. She fired rapidly, quickly, taking out the remaining monsters. Will barely had time to feel relief before noticing something shocking. The monsters' remains were entirely composed of metal parts. They weren't biological creatures at all, but artificially created machines. This also explained why they only attacked humans, didn't eat or rest, and never crossed altitudes above 8,000 feet. It was all part of their programming. But this level of technology was beyond human capability. Anna suspected that the monsters were products of an alien civilization. After returning to the camp, Will was finally reunited with his son. Meanwhile, Anna raised a pirate flag, signaling to all the surviving camps that she had found a way to defeat the monsters. Thanks to her relentless research, more advanced anti-monster weapons were soon developed. At Kate's grave, they placed a specially crafted bullet as a tribute. Then, armed and ready, Will and the others stepped beyond the perimeter. They were no longer on the defensive. As more survivor camps followed suit, humanity began reclaiming more and more territory. At the very end of the movie, there was a final twist. Anna gazed at the sky with a solemn expression. It seemed that, as the machine monsters faced total defeat, the aliens had deployed a new weapon to Earth. That concludes Sky Rescue. If